The story begins at the grand and opulent estate of Marquis Hugo. Within its walls, a noblewoman with striking purple hair rests in a serene slumber. Suddenly, her eyes fly open with a jolt of startling realization. Elsewhere in the mansion, her family enjoys a quiet, formal breakfast. Their peaceful meal is shattered when she bursts in to make a grand entrance. She then proudly lists her incredible accomplishments and immense personal wealth. Introducing herself as the brilliant Aracilla Hugo, she reveals a life-changing decision. Aracilla boldly announces her engagement to the mysterious Sir Vaneir. Her family is left completely stunned, their breakfast ruined by the shocking news. And Aracilla, the source of all this chaos, simply smirks with satisfaction. She's not just any noble, she's a genius mage known for her eccentric ways. The family recalls a time 3 years ago when she swore off marriage entirely. Her past declaration to remain single for life had left them just as speechless. So this sudden engagement announcement makes absolutely no sense to them. Her mother is convinced this is just another one of Aracilla's elaborate pranks. Aracilla cheekily suggests she's fully awake and ready to stir up some drama. Amid the chaos, her older sister calmly steps in to question Aracilla's motives. Iris Hugo, her sister, voices the family's concern over this abrupt change of heart. Aracilla turns away, unable to give them a straight answer. Her internal thoughts reveal a shocking secret. This entire marriage is for her sister's sake. Aracilla faces her sister, her entire plan secretly revolving around Iris's well-being. The shocking truth is revealed. This engagement is a desperate attempt to save Iris from a terrible fate. Aracilla has been hiding a profound secret from everyone her entire life. She possesses the uncanny ability to witness the future through her dreams. After 5 years of silence, a new and terrifying premonition has shaken her to the core. Her vision showed Iris trapped in a political marriage that would lead to her tragic demise. The dream continued, showing ominous figures approaching a dark, foreboding cell. In her vision, Aracilla finds her sister imprisoned and calls out in despair. Iris looks up, gaunt and broken, barely recognizing her own sister. Overwhelmed with horror and guilt, Aracilla regrets not being able to save her sooner. Iris, though imprisoned, expresses relief at seeing her sister one last time. Aracilla's hand covers her sister's, a stark contrast between freedom and captivity. Overcome with anguish, she expresses her deep regret for failing to prevent this tragedy. Iris, with a look of resignation, insists she was the one who was blind to the truth. Aracilla furiously rejects this, placing all the blame squarely on Iris's treacherous husband. In her vision, she collapses before the cell, unable to comprehend the treason charges against her sister. She desperately questions the cruel fate that has befallen the innocent Iris. Iris then reveals the true source of her misery, a contentious last will. The will prevented Sir Vaneir, the younger brother of Iris's husband, from inheriting the dukedom. Iris admits she was unaware of the bitter succession war between the brothers until after her marriage. Iris reveals that Sir Vaneir, the renowned captain of the Red Hawk Knights, was the younger brother at the center of the conflict. The vision continues with Iris suddenly collapsing in her cell, sending Aracilla into a panic. Battered and weak, Iris looks at her bloodied hand and asks her sister for one last favor. Aracilla is overcome with despair, her face a mask of tears as she hears her sister's final wish. With her last breath, Iris asks Aracilla to apologize to their family and to protect them in her absence. The dream ends with a chilling confirmation. Iris was executed just days later as the wife of a traitor. In the aftermath of the vision, newspapers report the executions while the public scoffs at the treason charges. The horrifying premonition fades, leaving Aracilla sitting alone, utterly broken by the future she has seen. She grips a newspaper from her vision, consumed by a powerful and agonizing regret. A fierce determination ignites in her eyes as she realizes she should have been the one to marry into that family instead. The story snaps back to the present, where Aracilla stands before her concerned sister. Aracilla knows she can't explain her actions are based on a prophetic dream no one would believe. Iris's eyes suddenly sparkle, jumping to the romantic conclusion that Aracilla is secretly in love. But Aracilla cheerfully crushes that theory, admitting she has never even seen her supposed fiancé. The family is now utterly baffled, with Iris suggesting her sister might need a doctor. Aracilla immediately shuts down their concern, halting the butler before he can leave. With a piercing gaze, she reveals she knows about the secret marriage that was already being arranged. Her parents are completely floored, questioning how she could have possibly learned of their plans. Aracilla proudly announces she will be the one to meet Sir Vaneir and enter the political marriage. With a jaunty wave, she makes her exit, leaving her dumbfounded family in her wake. Her family is left reeling, completely stunned by her bombshell announcement. Aracilla strides purposefully down the hall, her mind already set on her dangerous plan. She understands her parents knew about the marriage but couldn't bring themselves to tell Iris. The terrifying details of her prophetic dream remain seared into her memory. She recalls the vision of Iris's wedding day, set against a backdrop of pouring rain and gloom. In the dream, she watched helplessly as her sister was married off to the wrong man. The memory of Iris's frozen, unhappy expression on that day still haunts her. A cold fury builds within her as she thinks of Sir Vaneir, the man at the center of it all. She seethes at the thought of him using her innocent sister as a pawn in his family's power struggle. Back in the present, Aracilla bursts into the study, ready to take control of her family's destiny. Her shadow falls across the desk as she vows to prevent Iris from marrying that man. Realizing there's only one solution, she picks up the quill with steely resolve. With a cunning smile, she begins to write, determined to marry before her sister can. She believes this might save Iris's life, but knows it's not a complete solution. The true cause of death wasn't just the marriage, but the cruel betrayal behind it. A confident smirk plays on her lips as she decides to marry the villain herself. A wicked glint appears in her eyes as she plots to completely derail their succession war. She folds the letter, undeterred by the fact that she doesn't even know her fiancé's full name. Though unenthusiastic about the union, she mentally promises her future husband a visit. The scene shifts to the magnificent and imposing estate belonging to Sir Vaneir. An aide informs the formidable Sir Vaneir of an urgent letter, which he moves to inspect. He reaches for the letter, his gloved fingers poised over the red wax seal. Damien Vaneirs, captain of the Red Hawk Knights, reads the letter, puzzled by the sender's name, Aracilla Hugo. Pulling the note from its envelope, he questions why Aracilla would contact him directly. He reads Aracilla's incredibly bold proposal to expedite their marriage and meet in just 3 days. A faint, amused smirk appears as he processes the surprisingly forward and romantic-looking letter. But his amusement vanishes, replaced by a cold, irritated stare as he considers his future fiancée. Without a second thought, he casually drops the letter into the roaring flames. Turning his back on the burning letter, he concludes that all magicians must be completely insane. Dusting off his hands in disgust, Damien instantly vows to never associate with Aracilla Hugo. However, Damien's vow to avoid her was destined to be short-lived. 3 days later, Aracilla appears at his estate, cheerfully introducing herself to Lord Vaneir. With a mischievous glint in her eye, she pointedly asks if he happened to injure his hand. Damien is completely unimpressed, internally labeling his supposed fiancée a madwoman. His resolve to ignore her letter crumbled after just 3 days as she now stands before him with a triumphant smirk. The story flashes back to 5 minutes earlier at the Red Hawk Knights training ground. A knight interrupts training to inform the vice-captain of an unexpected visitor. The vice-captain of the Red Hawk Knights, Isaac Wind, is taken aback by the news. Aracilla strides onto the scene, declaring that she has found the right person. Holding her parasol, she announces she's there to see Lord Vaneir and demands to know why her letter was ignored. The vice-captain is immediately captivated by her beauty, asking for her name. She coolly introduces herself as Aracilla Hugo. With a dazzling smile, she adds that she's one of the Empire's most brilliant mages. Isaac's admiration quickly turns to stunned disbelief upon learning her identity. The other knights begin to whisper, recognizing her as the infamous mage from the tower. Aracilla simply smirks, completely unfazed by their gossip and judgment. The vice-captain recovers, formally asking her to leave as she is disrupting their training. She leans in with a sly expression, mocking their superior for being lazy and absent. Isaac's face hardens as he warns her not to speak ill of their captain. Aracilla dismisses his anger, retorting that her inconvenience is far greater. The knights are left completely flustered by her bold accusation against their leader. Suddenly, a commanding voice cuts through the tension, demanding to know the reason for the commotion. The knights immediately bow in reverence as their captain, Damien Vaneirs, finally appears on the training ground. Damien assesses the situation with a cold, piercing gaze, his handsome face betraying no emotion. The scene flashes back to Aracilla's cheerful introduction to the man himself. She had slyly inquired about a potential hand injury, feigning concern for his lack of a reply. Damien had formally greeted her, coolly confirming his identity and denying any injury. With a knowing smirk, Aracilla then cut to the chase, asking if he had simply ignored her letter. Back in the present, Damien turns his back on her and sternly addresses his vice captain. He completely disregards Aracilla, punishing his knights for the interruption with 50 laps around the grounds. As his knights run their punishment laps, Damien invites Aracilla to his chambers, and she readily agrees. They walk together, her elegant heels a stark contrast to his rugged military boots. The narrator reveals that while this is their first meeting, their true feelings are already burning with intensity. Internally, she fumes at his arrogance, while he is completely bewildered by her peculiar behavior. Inside his office, Damien offers a hollow apology for not responding to her letter. He then casually sips his tea, claiming he was busy and simply forgot about it. Aracilla sarcastically pities his poor memory, but he cuts her off, telling her to leave. He bluntly declares he has no intention of marrying her, forcing her to bring up their arranged marriage. She calmly explains that regardless of when they found out, the promise between their families is binding. Damien is left utterly stunned by her persistence and flatly refuses her demand. Aracilla insists their engagement is not something he can simply dismiss. With a fiery glare, she demands to know why he finds the prospect of marrying her so distasteful. She begins listing her merits, reminding him of her power by recalling how she defeated a massive magical beast. She then flaunts her beauty and her status as a candidate for Magic Tower Master, while he remains unimpressed. Leaning back, she prepares to reveal the one thing she knows will capture his attention. She accurately exposes his secret ambition to usurp his brother and become the next duke, leaving Damien stunned. With a confident smile, Aracilla offers to help him achieve his goal. Damien's demeanor shifts as he finally addresses her by her full name, a flicker of realization in his eyes. As she looks on curiously, he finally connects her name to a past incident. He now recalls exactly who she is, the mage who allegedly stole his knight's glory during the Southern Beast subjugation. Aracilla is momentarily baffled by his accusation of her stealing glory. Her confusion quickly erupts into pure fury at his ingratitude after she saved his men. Damien coldly dismisses her heroism, accusing her of opportunistically waiting to claim victory. As her anger boils over, the teacup on the table begins to tremble with her unstable magic. Unleashing a powerful aura, she furiously questions if his knights know the meaning of gratitude. Damien smirks, finding it laughable that a mage who can't control her emotions is lecturing him. The tense meeting escalates as she floats in a magical rage, turning their proposal into a direct confrontation. The sheer force of her power causes the ornate ceiling to crack under the strain. A maid suddenly bursts in, desperately trying to de-escalate the volatile situation. The maid, Audrey, reminds a furious Aracilla of her promise to stop using her power on people. Aracilla fumes, vowing to teach the ungrateful knight a lesson, while Audrey desperately tries to restrain her. Damien coldly tells her to stay out of his business, but she fires back that he's the one overstepping. Wrenching free, she furiously threatens that he will come to regret crossing her. Unfazed, Damien sips his tea and dismisses her offer of help, warning her against meddling. Aracilla confidently counters, insisting that he will absolutely need her assistance. She drops a bombshell, revealing his entire claim to the dukedom hinges on their marriage. Aracilla clarifies that his grandfather's will grants the title only to the grandson who marries her. Damien is left completely speechless by this unbelievable condition. With her trump card played, Aracilla turns to leave, putting the final decision in his hands. She and her maid exit the room, leaving Damien alone to process the shocking news. Damien struggles to process the shocking condition tied to his grandfather's will. The thought of being forced to marry the eccentric mage fills him with utter dread. Determined to find a way out, he resolves to investigate the truth of her claims. Meanwhile, Aracilla storms away from the barracks, still fuming from their encounter. A flashback highlights her dramatic exit, a calculated provocation masked as a proposal. She inwardly fumes, convinced that only her maid's presence saved the captain from a serious lesson. With her heart still racing from the confrontation, Aracilla finally returns to her estate. She and her maid make their way through the expansive, manicured gardens of her home. A young woman suddenly appears, surprising Aracilla by coming out to welcome her home. The woman smiles awkwardly as a small, purple-haired boy shyly hides behind her. The tearful boy is introduced as Adrian Hugo, Aracilla's younger brother and heir to the marquisate. Aracilla bursts into laughter, mercilessly teasing her brother for his tear-streaked face. The older sister scolds Aracilla for tormenting the youngest, who continues to wail as she pinches his cheek. Her teasing subsides as she gently asks her little brother why he's so upset. Adrian tearfully explains he's afraid her marriage means she will leave their home and him behind. With a sly smile, Aracilla bluntly informs him that calling off the marriage is simply not an option. The older sister casts a dark, menacing glare at Aracilla for her insensitive remark. Softening her tone, Aracilla finally reassures Adrian that getting married doesn't mean she's abandoning him. She affectionately pats his head, promising that she will always be his second sister. The older sister joins in, vowing that the three of them will remain Hugo's siblings until the very end. In a warm embrace, Aracilla promises that their family roots will remain strong, no matter what. A blushing Adrian finally agrees, his fears seemingly put to rest by his sister's love. Aracilla holds her parasol, watching as her brother's resolve begins to waver again. Adrian erupts, declaring he hates the marriage and her fiancé, while Aracilla points out the alternative is far worse. Her older sister is stunned by the implication that there could be someone worse than Damien. She confronts Aracilla, questioning if this is truly just a political arrangement. With a gentle touch, she tries to get through to her sister, who seems lost in thought. She reminds Aracilla of her true ambition, to become the next Magic Tower master. Urging her to follow her own dreams, the sister's words leave Aracilla visibly conflicted. The older sister offers a final, radiant smile of encouragement and unwavering support. A painful memory flashes through her mind of a younger, battered self smiling through tears and blood. The traumatic vision leaves Aracilla's face contorted in a silent, horrified gasp. Shaking off the memory, she turns from her siblings, insisting her marriage isn't just for political gain. Her older sister, unconvinced, presses her for the real motivation behind the arrangement. Aracilla tries to claim she simply likes him as a person, but her sister immediately dismisses this as a lie. With tears in her eyes, Aracilla prepares to reveal her surprisingly simple, true reason. She dramatically admits she's only interested in Damien because of his incredibly handsome face. Her siblings are left completely dumbfounded by her superficial and uncharacteristic confession. Aracilla furiously defends her choice, while her sister reminds her of her usual narcissism. She then pivots, declaring it a love match, only for her sister to point out she didn't even know him before. Her siblings stare in utter disbelief, their expressions a mixture of shock and suspicion. Unbothered, Aracilla dashes off, excitedly declaring she's going to wait for his letter. A bewildered Adrian turns to his older sister, still trying to process if the marriage is really happening. Aracilla walks away, confident that she has played her part perfectly. She inwardly urges Damien to agree, hoping to seal the deal before her sister's suspicions grow. With a look of frantic determination, she mentally begs him to send a swift reply. But Damien, ever the antagonist, smugly lets a full week pass without a word. A week later, he sits alone in his office, the weight of his situation clearly pressing down on him. He sighs in weary resignation, finally accepting that Aracilla's outrageous claims were true. His eyes burn with frustration as he questions his grandfather's bizarre and incomprehensible final wish. He realizes his family has been plotting to erase him, keeping him in the dark about the will. A family portrait reveals the close bond between his grandfather and father, effectively cutting him out. The entire scheme was designed to hand the family fortune to his smirking, incompetent half-brother. Overwhelmed but resolute, Damien knows he must find a way to prevent his own downfall. His thoughts drift back to Aracilla, her sharp gaze piercing through his composure. She had seen his ambition, accusing him of wanting to usurp his brother and claim the dukedom. The memory of her proposition lingers, presenting a tempting, albeit maddening, solution to his problem. He examines the letter again, the truth dawning on him. This marriage is an imperial decree. The weight of the command settles in. It's an order from the highest authority, impossible to refuse. In a stunning revelation, he sees the path forward. Marrying Aracilla is the key to claiming everything. Damien utters Aracilla's name, his mind now set on this new, unexpected path. He reviews her file, conceding that while she's certainly eccentric, she isn't completely irrational. Back at the Hugo estate, a maid announces the long-awaited letter from Lord Vandermeer has finally arrived. Aracilla eagerly receives the letter while her maid, Audrey, teases her about this supposed secret romance. Audrey fondly recalls her lady's many chaotic phases, from failed experiments to wild horse riding. But as Aracilla reads the contents, her excitement quickly sours into a deep, frustrated groan. She erupts in fury, declaring Damien has found a new way to get under her skin and orders Audrey to read it. The letter formally summons her to a coffee house, instructing her to come alone to continue their discussion. Aracilla loses her temper, infuriated by his nerve to set the terms after making her wait an entire week. As her maid tries to calm her, Aracilla insists there's another, even more infuriating detail in his message. Aracilla fumes that Damien signed off with his knightly order instead of his family name. Her maid notes the unusual signature, but Aracilla dismisses it as pure arrogance. She throws a tantrum, pacing her room and fuming over his perceived rudeness. Fueled by indignation, she immediately sits down to pen a fiery response. Aracilla thrusts the letter at her maid, demanding it be sent to Damien immediately. Audrey's expression shifts to disbelief as she reads her lady's audacious reply. In a petty power play, Aracilla changes the meeting time and signs off with her own prestigious title. Later that night, her maid bids her good night, leaving Aracilla alone with her thoughts. Staring at her reflection, she scoffs at the thought of the unfortunate man she's about to marry. Meanwhile, Damien stands alone in a dark room, similarly framed by a window, lost in contemplation. Damien's thoughts drift to the crazy mage he's now forced to deal with. Both he and Aracilla share the same unspoken, ruthless goal for their union. Aracilla internally vows to divorce him the second she gets what she wants. As night falls, the newly engaged couple independently plots their future separation. The story shifts to the magnificent magic tower, Aracilla's domain. She's engrossed in her research, levitating massive crystals as her juniors observe. Her subordinates, Sally and Rudy, discuss the technical difficulties of the project. Aracilla, ever the brilliant mage, proposes new experiments to solve the problem. Inspired by her leadership, her team enthusiastically agrees to press on with the research. Completely absorbed in her work, she's startled to realize how much time has passed. Aracilla delegates the day's work to her juniors, preparing to leave the magic tower. With a cheerful wave, she announces she has plans and makes a swift exit. Her subordinates are stunned, noting it's highly unusual for their workaholic senior to leave early. Sally observes her senior's uncharacteristic punctuality with growing suspicion. The team is left to wonder about the mysterious person important enough to pull Aracilla from her research. Elsewhere, her carriage horse rears wildly as they race against the clock. Inside, a frantic Audrey reminds Aracilla of the time, who sheepishly admits her research distracted her. Their carriage barrels through the city streets in a desperate attempt to make the meeting. They finally pull up to the Ferenga Coffee House, the designated meeting spot. Brimming with confidence, Aracilla prepares to face Damien, ignoring her flustered maid's protests. Her maid scolds her for not dressing up, but Aracilla confidently retorts that she's out of his league anyway. After some frantic last-minute styling from Audrey, Aracilla finally agrees to tie her hair up. Looking sharp and composed, she instructs her maid to wait outside while she handles the meeting alone. She makes a grand entrance into the coffee house, leaving her worried maid calling after her. The doors swing shut, leaving Audrey to stare helplessly from the street. The maid clasps her hands together, a look of sheer terror crossing her face. Audrey sends up a silent, desperate prayer that the meeting doesn't end in chaos. Inside, Aracilla strides purposefully across the cafe towards Damien, who sits waiting. She greets her fiancé with a brilliant, confident smile, ready for their confrontation. Without even turning to look at her, Damien coolly points out that she is late. He specifies she's late by exactly 3 minutes, causing Aracilla to silently fume over his own past tardiness. She glares, inwardly mocking his decision to wear his formal night uniform on a day off. Damien coolly points out her hypocrisy, as she's still dressed in her own work robes. He impatiently tells her to order, leaving Aracilla flustered by his curt command. After a waitress serves their drinks, the two finally sit down to begin their tense discussion. A palpable silence hangs in the air as they face each other across the table. Aracilla smugly breaks the tension, questioning his sudden change of heart about needing her. Damien calmly sips his tea, considering her words before delivering his response. Without a hint of hesitation, he directly admits that he does in fact need Lady Hugo. His blunt confession catches Aracilla completely off guard, her composure momentarily faltering. Seizing the opportunity, Damien suggests they cut straight to business and make a deal. He fixes her with an intense gaze, demanding to know exactly what she wants from their union. Aracilla confidently lays out her first non-negotiable term. Her sister will not marry into his family. Damien listens intently, his calm expression betraying no surprise at her bold demand. She then adds her second condition for a swift divorce, which he readily accepts, admitting he also wants no family ties. With her terms on the table, Damien declares it's his turn to state his own conditions for their arrangement. He methodically lists the rules of their contract, a platonic, mutually beneficial partnership ending the moment he secures his inheritance. Absolutely delighted by his proposal, Aracilla eagerly agrees and suggests making it legally binding at the temple. As a nearby waitress looks on in shock, Damien coolly accepts, noting Aracilla's strange cheerfulness about their cold transaction. He then drops a bombshell, casually revealing he's already sold their families a story about a whirlwind romance. Damien adds a crucial condition. His family must be kept completely in the dark about their arrangement. He gives a knowing smirk, ready to elaborate on the treacherous politics of his household. Damien explains that his family is backing his older brother for the ducal title and would interfere if they knew the truth. He clarifies the power dynamic, revealing his brother is the son of the current duchess, while his own mother was the first. Aracilla quickly pieces together the complicated family tree, a classic tale of a first wife's son versus a second wife's. Seeing the full picture, she proposes they abandon simple resistance for a much smarter, more cunning approach. She leans in with a sly smile, mentioning the upcoming royal ball hosted by the crown prince himself. The ball is the most prestigious social event of the season, a grand stage where all the empire's elite will gather. With a brilliant, almost manic grin, Aracilla declares they will make their grand marriage announcement there. Her audacious plan leaves Damien utterly speechless, a bead of sweat trickling down his face in disbelief. Aracilla coolly repeats her plan, while Damien panics over the risk of ruining the crown prince's ball. She casually reveals her friendship with the crown prince, leaving Damien to question if she even has friends. After she argues for a bold approach, a reluctant Damien finally agrees to her scheme. With their deal struck, the two stand to leave the coffee house, their business concluded. Aracilla extends her hand to seal their new partnership, ready to finalize the details later. She flashes a brilliant smile, genuinely excited to begin their mutually beneficial arrangement. Damien observes her with a sharp, calculating gaze, momentarily caught off guard by her cheerful demeanor. He sharply turns away, reminding her of their no-contact rule and her apparent forgetfulness. A memory of another woman's taunt flashes by as Aracilla seethes, silently accusing him of being a flirt. Meanwhile, an oblivious Audrey waits outside, happily imagining her lady enjoying a romantic date. Audrey's romantic delusion continues as she pictures a charming Damien sweeping her lady off her feet. Her fantasy abruptly ends when Damien strides out of the cafe alone, leaving her utterly bewildered. Aracilla then storms out, her furious expression telling Audrey the meeting was anything but romantic. Radiating pure fury, Aracilla silently vows revenge, terrifying her poor maid. She quickly grabs Audrey, announcing their immediate departure and leaving the maid to wonder where they're headed. With a look of fierce resolve, Aracilla declares they are going shopping for a ball gown. Audrey's worry instantly transforms into pure joy at the thought of her lady finally embracing high society. The narrative explains that Aracilla is burying her burning feelings for Damien under a new goal. Arriving at their carriage, she shocks the coachman by announcing she will be taking the reins herself. Ignoring their protests, she climbs into the driver's seat, ordering them to get in for what promises to be a wild trip. With a sharp crack of the reins, Aracilla takes control, ready to unleash chaos. She urges the horses into a frantic gallop, her expression a mix of fury and determination. Inside the carriage, her terrified maid and coachman are tossed about by the reckless ride. The carriage barrels through the city streets as Aracilla races toward her new objective. Fueled by indignation, she silently screams her vow of revenge against Damien. Time skips forward to the evening of the highly anticipated royal ball. As Aracilla gets ready, a friend approaches her with a worried expression. The friend questions her plan, but Aracilla confidently declares her marriage will be tomorrow's top story. Her friend remains anxious, pointing out the scandal of announcing an engagement at the crown prince's party. Aracilla casually waves off the concern, revealing she already has the crown prince's personal approval. She brightly declares the crown prince is her closest friend, hence his easy approval of her plan. The narrative introduces her powerful friend Frederick, the second prince of the empire. Known for his martial skill and charisma, Frederick was once seen as a better candidate for the throne than the first prince. His regal presence and grand attire highlight his formidable status within the empire. Back in the present, Aracilla notices her friend's worried expression and questions her unease. The friend admits she's more concerned about Damien's overwhelming popularity, much to Aracilla's annoyance. She explains that Damien is considered the ideal man by every noble lady in the empire. His reputation as the youngest swordmaster ever has earned him the intimidating nickname, the Mad Dog. Therefore, becoming his fiancée will instantly make Aracilla the target of countless jealous rivals. Her friend despairs, recognizing the completely unbothered expression that means Aracilla is ignoring the danger. Aracilla's friend pleads with her, gripping her arm for emphasis. The friend begs Aracilla to stick to the engagement announcement and avoid further drama. Aracilla gives a bright, reassuring smile and promises to behave. Iris, Aracilla's friend, has a sudden foreboding feeling. Iris suspects Aracilla is planning something even more chaotic. Audrey fusses over Aracilla's hair, highlighting her obliviousness to the larger plan. The Grand Imperial Palace of the Cetron Empire is revealed. The ball's lavish spread of food and drinks is displayed. Guests mingle and gossip, enjoying the festive atmosphere. Aracilla and Iris make their grand entrance, drawing attention. Aracilla surveys the opulent ballroom, a confident smirk playing on her lips. Her rare appearance with Iris immediately sparks whispers among the gossiping nobles. With a steely gaze, she prepares to unleash the first stage of her grand scheme. The narrative declares the official debut of tonight's most scandalous gossip. Nearby ladies sneer, dismissing the Hugo sisters' appeal and underestimating their influence. Unfazed, Aracilla commands the room, her striking presence silencing the petty chatter. A devilish grin spreads across her face as she relishes the chaos she's about to cause. She eagerly anticipates the rumors that will soon swirl around her, setting the stage for her announcement. Her triumphant expression falters as an unexpected sight catches her attention. Damien makes his own grand entrance, his cool and imposing figure instantly capturing the room's focus. His flawless features and regal attire are highlighted, surrounded by an almost magical aura. The noble ladies erupt in a frenzy of adoration, completely captivated by Lord Vandemeer's presence. He moves with a dazzling grace that has everyone comparing him to a living work of art. His confident stride comes to an abrupt halt directly in front of Aracilla, signaling a deliberate confrontation. He offers a polite greeting, which Aracilla returns with a brilliantly cheerful yet calculated smile. The onlooking ladies are stunned into disbelief, shocked that the reclusive lord would approach her. Their public interaction immediately fuels wild speculation among the guests about their connection. In a seemingly intimate moment, he confirms he was waiting for her to make their engagement announcement. The crowd reels from the revelation, unaware that Aracilla is internally savoring her long-awaited revenge. Whispers instantly spread like wildfire as everyone questions the true nature of their sudden relationship. The entire ballroom watches them, speculating that their romance defies social status. Seizing the moment, Aracilla decides to escalate her plan. She boldly addresses Lord Vandemeer, extending a hand toward him. With a charming smile, she publicly asks him for a dance. The onlookers are thrown into a frenzy by her audacious move. Even Iris is swept up in the excitement, her earlier worries completely forgotten. Damien appears momentarily flustered, caught off guard by her public request. He recalls a key condition of their contract: no unnecessary physical contact. Aracilla's expression turns sinister as she dares him to reject her in front of everyone. Trapped by social etiquette, Damien accepts her hand as the crowd gasps at the unprecedented turn of events. Damien grits his teeth, a bead of sweat betraying his inner turmoil at her public challenge. With no other choice, he reluctantly agrees, taking her offered hand. He smoothly recovers his composure, gallantly offering to escort her to the dance floor. Damien looks down at Aracilla with a calculating gaze, while she seems momentarily taken aback by his proximity. From the sidelines, a completely convinced Iris swoons, believing their romance is real. Their performance is a resounding success, fooling the entire ballroom as they head to the dance floor. The journey through the adoring crowd leaves them both looking utterly drained and queasy. They take their place in the center of the dance floor, the spotlight fixed on them among the other waltzing couples. Their hands clasp in a perfect practiced hold, completing the image of a devoted couple. As they dance, Damien presses for the timing of the announcement, and she confirms it will be right after the music stops. Damien glares at her, accusing her of being petty, while she warns him to hide his anger before the crowd misinterprets their tension. As they glide across the floor, she probes the reason for his foul mood, sensing it's more than just her scheme. He hesitates for a moment before revealing the true source of his discomfort. Damien confesses his simple dislike for dancing, pulling her firmly into the waltz. The music draws to a close, and their performance ends, leaving the audience in suspense. A royal announcer steps forward, declaring that Lady Aracilla has an important message from the Crown Prince. Iris watches with wide-eyed shock, her previous excitement replaced by a dawning sense of dread. The gossiping nobles are rendered speechless, completely taken aback by this official turn of events. Aracilla and Damien stand poised on a platform, commanding the absolute attention of every guest. With a resolute gaze, Damien internally declares that the moment of truth has arrived and this is now his stage. With a triumphant smile, Aracilla joyfully proclaims her marriage to none other than Lord Damien Vaneirs. The news is so staggering that one noblewoman's jaw drops comically into her wineglass. The entire ballroom is thrown into absolute chaos, the guests reeling from the bombshell announcement. While Damien sweats bullets at her bluntness, Aracilla elegantly dismisses the crowd, her work complete. Her victory is interrupted as a panicked Crown Prince Frederick suddenly calls out to her. He stumbles forward, demanding an explanation for her actions with a look of utter despair. Prince Frederick, second in line to the throne, stares in disbelief, questioning the marriage announcement. The narrative shifts back 7 years, to the day of the Academy's entrance ceremony. A younger Prince Frederick worries about being late for the prestigious event. He spots a young, purple-haired girl ahead and decides to ask her for directions. The young girl simply points the way, leaving the prince momentarily stunned. He gets his first proper look at the young Aracilla, who is surrounded by a radiant, sparkling aura. The young prince is immediately captivated by her beauty, his cheeks flushing red with infatuation. The narrative confirms this was the exact moment Prince Frederick fell hopelessly in love at first sight. This cherished memory is shattered by the reality of Aracilla's present-day marriage announcement. In the crowd, Prince Frederick stands frozen, his expression one of pure, unadulterated shock. His face contorts in anguish, revealing his tragic, unrequited love for her has persisted all these years. Unable to contain himself, the prince marches forward, demanding she explain the meaning of her announcement. Aracilla and Damien turn to face him, their expressions a mixture of surprise and apprehension. He desperately questions her, insisting she never spoke of marriage to him as others try to intervene. The nobles whisper frantically, reminding each other to show deference to the crown prince. The crowd parts before Prince Frederick, their silent judgment isolating him in the center of the room. He breaks into a cold sweat, suddenly remembering that every eye in the ballroom is fixed on his outburst. The weight of their collective stare crushes him, reminding him of the disgraceful scene he's making. Aracilla calmly addresses the prince, breaking the tense silence and drawing his flustered attention. With a poised smile, she suggests they continue their conversation in a more private setting. The prince appears utterly defeated, his composure crumbling under her calm control. They relocate to a secluded garden gazebo, away from the prying eyes of the party guests. She chides his unprincely display of emotion, but he blames her sudden marriage announcement for his distress. He desperately questions her decision, pointing out the incompatibility between a mage and a knight. Aracilla coolly dismisses his point, questioning why their different roles should matter at all. He reminds her of her long-held opposition to marriage, but she simply states Damien changed her mind. The prince's face flushes as he desperately asks if she's forgotten a promise from their past. His mind flashes back to their freshman year, recalling a specific moment they shared in the academy library. The memory shows a younger Frederick proposing a pact, if they were both single by the age of 40. He had asked her to marry him, a suggestion made in the quiet halls of the library. Back in the present, Frederick clings to this promise, leaving Aracilla aghast that he took a 7-year-old joke seriously. In a comical moment, he insists she agreed, while she clarifies she was merely humoring what she thought was a jest. The prince, heartbroken, confronts her for the sudden announcement, pleading that she must know how much he cares for her. Aracilla looks at him with sad eyes, acknowledging she knows he cares for her deeply, but only as a friend. Aracilla apologizes for the lack of warning, but maintains a firm stance with the heartbroken prince. She declares her marriage was a carefully considered decision and firmly asks him to respect her choice. Prince Frederick is left utterly speechless, unable to process her final unyielding words. His shock quickly morphs into a chilling smile as he menacingly questions the meaning of respect. With a sudden, ominous apology, he turns his back on her, his demeanor completely changed. The prince walks away from the gazebo, leaving a stunned Aracilla alone under the night sky. She watches him go, completely bewildered by the intensity of his anger over the situation. As Frederick storms through the garden, a lone figure watches his departure from a balcony above. The observer is revealed to be Damien, who has been silently witnessing the entire confrontation. The scene ends on a shot of the grand estate, the starlit sky hinting at the drama yet to unfold. The very next day, newspapers across the empire explode with headlines about the union of the century. The public buzzes with gossip, questioning the unprecedented marriage between a mage and a knight. With the news spreading like wildfire, Aracilla and Damien arrive at the Marquis Hugo estate. Aracilla turns to Damien with a brilliant smile, cheerfully asking if he's ready for the next step. A stunned Damien bluntly admits that he is absolutely not prepared for what's coming. She teases him for his panic, reminding him that she only informed him about meeting her parents the night before. A nervous Damien asks if there's anything he should know before meeting her family, and she says there's just one thing. With a playful wink, she asks if he's truly prepared to take away their family's beloved second daughter. The doors open to reveal her stone-faced father and a pouting younger brother, both radiating immense disapproval. Their intimidating auras manifest as a fierce tiger and an angry chihuahua, making Damien sweat in terror. In stark contrast to her husband's glowing glare, the Marchioness offers Damien a warm, welcoming smile. Unfazed by the hostility, Damien bows respectfully, expressing his honor at meeting Aracilla's parents. Suddenly, Aracilla's younger brother, Adrian, charges forward, loudly proclaiming his opposition to the marriage. The flushed and furious boy demands that Damien not take his beloved sister away from their family. As another sister tries to intervene, Adrian insists Aracilla is far too young to be getting married. He even recites Damien's famous titles, declaring that not even the swordmaster can have his sister's hand. Damien calmly looks down, addressing the defiant young boy by his full title. He then leans down to the boy's level, who stands his ground with arms outstretched, blocking the way. Damien's demeanor darkens as he intensely states he'll marry Aracilla no matter what, challenging the boy to stop him. The little brother is instantly petrified, trembling under the sheer force of Damien's sudden intimidation. Overwhelmed and embarrassed, the young boy tries to regain his composure with a cough. Defeated, Adrian runs crying to his mother, leaving his father to face the unwelcome suitor. The Marquis's glare hardens, his protective instincts now fully aimed at Damien. Aracilla sighs, chiding Damien for taking her playful challenge so literally with her young brother. Later, the family gathers for a meal in a grand dining hall, the silence thick with unspoken tension. The Marquis finally breaks the silence, fixing Damien with a direct and probing stare. He cuts straight to the point, demanding to know Damien's true reason for marrying his daughter. The father acknowledges Aracilla's extraordinary nature, implying she is quite a handful. Damien agrees, explaining her remarkable personality is exactly why he chose her, promising a life free of boredom. The Marchioness is taken aback, questioning his seemingly simple and unconventional reason for marriage. The Marchioness presses further, asking what he'll do if he finds their marriage stifling. Damien calmly replies that he and Aracilla will simply communicate and adapt to any challenges. Unimpressed, his mother-in-law sets down her fork, stressing the gravity of a marital commitment. She reminds them that marriage means being prepared to spend an entire lifetime together. The Marchioness then turns her sharp gaze to both her daughter and her future son-in-law. She poses a critical question, asking if they are truly ready for a lifelong commitment. Standing with authority, she repeats her question, demanding to know if they are prepared to spend a lifetime together. The weight of the word lifetime suddenly hits Aracilla, leaving her stunned. Damien also seems to falter, contemplating the true meaning of spending their lives together. A heavy silence falls over the couple, their serious expressions revealing they hadn't considered the true depth of their vow. The Marchioness's gaze sharpens, her disapproval radiating across the dining table. Seeing their hesitation, she erupts, forbidding them to marry if they have any doubts. Damien quickly clarifies it was a moment of realization, not doubt, as Aracilla chimes in with cheerful agreement. Clinging to his arm, Aracilla insists their marriage is deeply meaningful, though Damien's stiff posture suggests otherwise. With a tear in her eye, the Marchioness relents slightly, but prepares to deliver one final warning to her future son-in-law. She cautions him not to expect a traditional wife, reminding everyone of Aracilla's dream to become the Tower Master. Damien listens intently as she suggests it's better to break it off now than to demand the impossible from her daughter. He calmly declares he won't interfere with her ambitions, stating they will live their own separate lives. Stunned by his response, the Marchioness presses him, asking if he will truly allow Aracilla to keep working after marriage. Damien firmly states he has no right to stop her, affirming that her career is entirely her own decision. The entire Hugo family is utterly flabbergasted by Damien's progressive declaration. The narrative reveals that even the mages of the tower are deeply conservative and prejudiced. However, the knights are shown to be even more rigid, ruthlessly protecting their sacred order. Damien's unexpectedly modern mindset completely wins over Aracilla's family in an instant. The Marquis tearfully admits he thought no man could match his daughter, but Aracilla cheekily disagrees. She asks her parents to stop worrying, and Damien confidently assures them their support is all that's needed. Overcome with emotion, the Marquis hides his face as his other daughter looks on in astonishment. Even the defeated younger brother, Adrian, tearfully musters the courage to ask one final question. The couple turns their attention to the young boy, waiting to hear his last concern. Blushing furiously, Adrian asks if Damien is the affectionate type, concerned for his sister's happiness. Aracilla erupts into a fit of laughter at the question, while Damien looks absolutely mortified by the concept. Adrian earnestly explains that his sister has always expressed a preference for sweet and charming men. A flashback reveals Aracilla once told her brother she only likes charming men, a clever lie to encourage his own affection. The stoic swordmaster trembles, completely unnerved by the boy's sincere and heartfelt request. With tears in his eyes, Adrian passionately begs Damien to shower his sister with affection, entrusting her to him. Damien's composure shatters under the weight of the boy's plea, as Aracilla continues to find the situation hilarious. The narration concludes that Adrian's innocent question successfully broke the tension, ending the formal meeting on a warm note. As Damien prepares to depart, the Hugo family walks with him to see him off. Just as he is about to leave, the Marquis calls out, stopping Damien for a private word. With a serious gaze, Aracilla's father informs his future son-in-law that he has one last thing to say. The Marquis extends his hand, offering a final, formal gesture of trust. He makes a simple, heartfelt request for Damien to take good care of his daughter. The father admits he had hoped to keep Aracilla sheltered under his own protection forever. He reflects on his wish for her to chase her dreams, acknowledging that children must forge their own paths. Damien listens with unwavering focus, absorbing the weight of the father's heartfelt confession. The Marquis's only condition is that Damien upholds his promise to give Aracilla her freedom. Without hesitation, Damien grasps his hand in a firm, reassuring shake. He looks the Marquis in the eye, affirming that his promise was made with absolute sincerity. A wave of relief washes over the Marquis, who offers a genuine smile of gratitude. With the final approval secured, the Marchioness steps in to escort Damien out as he takes his leave. As Aracilla escorts Damien out, her younger brother calls for her to visit again soon. She waves a cheerful goodbye to her family, ushering them back inside the manor. The couple walks away from the Hugo estate, the successful meeting finally behind them. Damien breaks the silence, observing that she must have grown up surrounded by a great deal of love. Surprised by his comment, Aracilla turns to him, asking for clarification. She smiles warmly, confirming that she was indeed abundantly and deeply loved by her family. He connects this loving upbringing to the source of her unwavering confidence. Aracilla playfully credits her personality, but admits her family's support helps her stand tall. She then curiously asks him why he suddenly brought up the subject. Her simple question seems to catch him off guard, his expression turning intensely serious. A flashback reveals a young Damien being smothered with affection by a woman and her maids. The memory turns sour as the boy stands frozen, surrounded by mocking, shadowy figures. He is shown isolated and small, dwarfed by the long, ominous shadows of the women. Back in the present, Damien hesitates before finally answering her question. He explains he was merely curious about her eccentric charm, earning a flat, unamused look from Aracilla. Deciding to move on, she steers the conversation towards their next official step as they approach his carriage. Aracilla reminds him they must now formally meet with the Ducal family, who have surely heard the news. Damien confirms his family is already en route to the capital and will arrive very soon. Taking the information in stride, Aracilla simply asks him to notify her when the meeting is set. Just as he's about to depart, she stops him, asking if there's anything she needs to know before meeting his family. Damien cryptically warns her to brace herself for the ever-annoying second son. With a charming smile, he promises to write soon before climbing into his carriage. His carriage departs from the Hugo estate, leaving Aracilla to watch him go. She contemplates his strange warning, resolving to prepare herself for the upcoming family meeting. The scene shifts to the imposing and gloomy Vandermeer dukedom at night. Inside, a vase smashes to pieces as someone furiously screams Damien's name. An enraged woman in a green gown trembles with fury, calling him a wretched rat. She furiously accuses him of coveting her own son's rightful place, terrifying the nearby maids. Her face twists in pure hatred as she internally seethes, finding his actions utterly unforgivable. The room is a scene of destruction, reflecting the Duchess's violent rage as her maids look on. The enraged Duchess coldly commands her maid to prepare the carriage immediately. Identified as Damien's stepmother, Sophie Vandermeer, she decides it's time to pay a visit to her second son. The scene shifts to Damien's bright and lavish estate, where Aracilla arrives for the dreaded meeting. Mentally preparing for the encounter, she steels her resolve for the formal introduction to the Ducal family. A butler greets Lady Hugo at the entrance, politely gesturing for her to come inside. Upon entering, she's immediately surprised by a loud voice denouncing Lord Vandermeer as a fool. A young blonde woman then forcefully bumps into Aracilla, clearly looking for a confrontation. The woman, identified as Nora White, feigns shock and questions if Aracilla hit her on purpose. Aracilla is left utterly baffled by the sudden and bizarre accusation. Looking down at the much shorter girl, Aracilla sarcastically apologizes, claiming she could barely see her, which leaves Nora fuming. Fuming, Nora declares she will never forgive Lady Hugo. She then launches into an accusation, claiming Aracilla always steals the men she fancies. Aracilla coolly retorts that she doesn't even know who this stranger is. A sharp voice cuts through the tension as Damien arrives, identifying the girl as Lady White. He questions why she's still there, making Nora blush as Aracilla finally recalls who she is. She recalls the source of the animosity. House White lost a valuable mine to her family and has despised them ever since. When Nora tries to approach him, Damien coldly warns her to stay back or face legal consequences. The threat works, and as Nora tearfully calls him heartless, Aracilla dryly notes her compliance. Nora tearfully asks if he was truly unaware of the depth of her love for him. Damien shoots back with a cold stare, dismissing her feelings as a one-sided infatuation. With his patience exhausted, Damien coldly orders the butler to escort Lady White out. He then calmly turns to Aracilla, inviting her to proceed as if nothing had happened. As the butler leads her away, a fuming Nora struggles and vows to make Aracilla pay. Aracilla responds with a dazzling wink, playfully suggesting Nora take a good look at her beauty. Her rival's taunt sends Nora into a fit of rage, thrashing about as the butler drags her away. After the spectacle, Aracilla asks how Nora caused such a scene, and Damien explains she just appeared out of nowhere. She notes the terrible timing, but finds a silver lining in that it happened before his family arrived. Breaking into a nervous sweat, Damien corrects her, revealing that his family is already present. Her calm demeanor evaporates as she panics, frantically asking if his family witnessed the entire disaster. Mistakenly believing they're in the clear, she marches forward to resolve things, prompting a desperate Damien to call after her. Damien gravely warns her that the Ducal family will do everything in their power to stop this marriage. He elaborates that they will ensure she receives absolutely nothing from the Vandermeer estate. With a look of genuine concern, he asks if she is truly certain she wants to proceed with this. Aracilla retorts with exasperation, questioning if he's suggesting she back out now that they've come this far. She coolly tells him to worry about himself, as she is more than capable of handling the pressure. With a brilliant smile, she declares her own intention to do whatever it takes, daring him to keep up. Her confidence restored, Aracilla firmly knocks on the door to face the lion's den. She enters with a dazzling, practiced smile, formally introducing herself to the room. With perfect poise, she graciously thanks them for the invitation to meet the esteemed Vandermeer family. The camera pans out to reveal the Duchess Sophie sitting judgmentally on a sofa, while a man stands ominously by the window. The man by the window finally speaks, questioning if she is indeed marrying Damien. Identified as Damien's father, Alex Vandermeer, he scoffs with clear disapproval. Duchess Sophie then questions why a famously single woman would suddenly insist on marriage. She insinuates that Lady Hugo must be approaching her son with impure intentions. The Duchess claims many women have tried to use Damien, making it difficult to trust Aracilla's purpose. While Damien seethes at the degrading accusation, Aracilla calmly agrees that she understands their concern. She then cheekily declares she's only marrying him for his face, calling it a rare treasure she can't let slip away. Her audacious and shallow reason leaves the Duchess utterly speechless and aghast. Leaning in, Aracilla tells the Duchess that she is, in fact, taking this marriage more seriously than anything. She boasts of her own wealth, beauty, and title, but smugly declares that appearance trumps all. She blissfully declares that superficial beauty is the only thing that truly matters in life. Her shockingly shameless declaration of beauty worship leaves everyone in the room frozen in disbelief. The Vandermeer family is utterly flabbergasted by her performance, convinced she's completely unhinged. Recovering her composure, the Duchess objects, stating a mage is an unsuitable match for her knightly son. Aracilla feigns dismay at the Duchess's opposition, secretly wondering if her outrageous act is having the desired effect. A fierce determination burns within her as she prepares to unleash her final, most audacious argument. The Duchess recoils in horror, demanding to know what Aracilla is talking about. She winks playfully, announcing her burning passion for beauty and her intent to make Damien the first piece in her collection. The Duchess stares in utter shock, finally realizing she has completely underestimated her opponent. Sophie recalls her flawed plan, realizing that instead of wounding her pride, she has only fueled Aracilla's bizarre obsession. The Duchess breaks into a cold sweat, realizing Aracilla is a whole new level of unhinged. The formal meeting concludes, having been completely dominated by Aracilla's relentless psychological assault. With a cheerful wave, she departs, leaving the Duke and Duchess utterly shell-shocked and defeated. As Damien sees her off, they exchange formal goodbyes, the battle against his family now won. Leaning in close, Aracilla gives him a smug, triumphant look. A faint blush creeps onto Damien's face, clearly flustered by her bold move. She smiles sweetly, declaring that all that's left now is the wedding itself. Damien agrees with a soft smile, fully accepting their path forward. With a final farewell, she turns to leave, their partnership now solidified. He stands alone in the courtyard, watching thoughtfully as her carriage disappears into the distance. Back inside, Duchess Sophie calls out to Damien, her voice dripping with venom. She furiously questions if he truly believes he can steal what rightfully belongs to his brother, Oscar. Livid, she accuses him of making a mockery of the family by bringing home such an untamed woman. Damien turns to face her, a cool, knowing smirk playing on his lips. His mother recoils in disbelief at his smile, warning him not to get arrogant. She screams in his face, declaring that in the end he is nothing but a complete failure. Unfazed, Damien calmly concedes he may be a failure now, but vows to become a victor one day. He delivers a devastating blow, implying she herself became powerful by seizing what belonged to another. The Duchess is left trembling with rage, utterly speechless at his sharp-tongued accusation. With a final, cold look, Damien excuses himself, leaving his mother to stew in her defeat. As Damien walks away, the Duchess seethes, his name a curse on her lips. Her fist trembles with rage as she recognizes her own prideful nature reflected in him. A twisted smile forms on her face as she declares a silent war, eager to see who will be left standing in the end.